Hey, good morning, everyone. It is Leighellen with Mama Leighlen's Book Nook. It's really dark in here, so I'm sorry for the crappy quality of this video. I just don't want to deal with the BS of taking a video and editing it and having it take forever and then having you miss out on hearing about these good books. So today I posted a reel on Instagram with my top 5 favorite books of July, and I figured that I would go live on here on my BookTube channel to go more in depth because Instagram is great for snippets, but it's a little hard to really chat about books. So I wanted to go here today to brag about some of my favorite reads. So let me back up and say, hello, I'm Leighellen, and this is Mama Leighlen's Book Nook. Normally there's like some really cute introductory music that happens and really quality editing, but you know what? It's summer. I haven't even showered yet, and I just really want to talk books. So I figure you don't care. You like books. It doesn't matter if I'm showered or if the editing is lovely. We'll get to that once the kids are back in school. So for now, let's talk books. This is my stack of favorites. I read 19 books this month, 4 of which were on audio. If you don't read audiobooks, I highly recommend them. There's a link in this video description for Libro FM. That is particularly what I use. I choose Libro FM because anytime I download and purchase a book from them, the payment goes to a local bookstore of my choosing. And so since I live here in Colorado, I have a favorite local bookstore and I really love supporting them. So I also have to give a shout out to audiobooks because I am a mom and life can be crazy. For example, my youngest son competes in these golf tournaments, and they can be anywhere from an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours away from our house. So I do spend a lot of time in the car. So it's great to be able to pop in an audiobook and listen to it as we're going somewhere. It's also just fantastic as a mom to be doing laundry, baking, whatever, and have a book playing. So as a multitasker type of a woman, it's just a really cool way to read. So check out Libro FM. I've got a referral link below, and let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to chat with you about them. I will highly recommend one book right off the top of the hat. I'm totally rambling right now. I'm sorry, you guys. This is going to be an off-the-cuff video. I do have a plan. All the Lonely People. I wish I had the book right next to me. It was fantastic. I think I read it in June. I haven't been on here in forever because it's summer. So that was a really good audio because of the accent of the person that portrayed the lead. So sometimes audios like really are almost better in an audio form. Sometimes those books are better because the characters can really come alive. So, okay, back on task. Let me talk books. So let's see. These are the 5 books that were my favorite this past month in July. So first of all, The Second Blind Son. This is by Amy Harmon. It is a YA fantasy. And it's funny because I feel like maybe it's listed as like historical fantasy. I'm not really sure what that is. I will say that I have read all of her books and she does cross a lot of genres, and my historical fiction books by her are always my favorite. She has a way of writing that is so descriptive and really, she's fantastic at world building, and so it really comes alive. So I think that kind of like historical fiction strength of hers really melded well with a fantasy book, which sounds weird, but she was able to create this whole world and you can like feel it, see it, taste it, touch it. It's phenomenal. So this book is also book 2 in a series. You don't have to read the first book to enjoy this. And the reason I say that, Amy and I went live on Instagram and chatted about this book. And the way she described it was that it's like written in layers. So this book fits like on top of the world from her first book. So you don't have to read the first book. It's not the same characters. There's a couple characters that are still in this one, but it's a new story. It is set in similar places and times, so they enrich each other. So if you have read it, you will love this. If you have not read it, it is fine. You can just go into this blind and thoroughly enjoy it. If you are a Patrick Rothfuss fan and you are sick and tired of waiting for his last book, like I am, I can't just not read. I have to keep reading. Sorry, Patrick. I recommend this because it has that same kind of like quest feeling, mystical feeling, magical feeling. It is about this young man who is blind, who meets this young woman, and when they touch, her singing makes him see. So she can like sing a song and he sees what she's singing about. If she's singing about, a river, if she's singing about the sunset, he can see it. And it's so cool. And there's a little romance in there and tension. They're separated for long periods of time and they connect with their minds in her singing. So there's a mystery to solve. I loved it. So I highly recommend this one. Amy Harmon, Second Blind Son. My books are all over the place, by the way. If you follow me at all, you'll know that I literally read everything. I read everything. Historical fiction is my favorite. YA fantasy is probably my second favorite. Beyond that, I also read all sorts of things. So this stack is going to be pretty diverse. If you ever have questions about why I chose a book or what I'm reading, just go ahead and ask. You can go in the comments. Maybe they're below. Comments below. And I will always get back to you if you have questions about why I chose a book or who my favorite authors are, any of that stuff. I love talking books and I love meeting other people who love talking books. So we're a great combo. The next favorite was, speaking of switching gears, this book. This is The Heart in the Highlands by Heidi Himball. And this is not even out yet. So I read an early copy. I want to say it comes out next week, maybe August 8th is kind of my guess. Does it say on here? I don't want to waste your time, but it just says August of 2021, but I think it's next week. So this is Regency romance. If you don't know what Regency romance is, it's like a kind of a subgenre that combines like historical fiction and romance. They're usually really short books. They're always set in the same time period. This one is set in Scotland. And they're always closed door. Well, I can't say always, mostly closed door. So this book I loved. I devoured it. I read it in like 37 seconds. I read it on the beach. It was amazing. So what's cool is I felt like this author was trying to push the boundaries. So the thing with Regency romance is it's usually always very proper just because of the timeline, right? And, women couldn't back then usually work, and women really were supposed to be quiet and well-dressed and all that stuff. So they have to kind of stick these stories in this box. What I adored about this book is that she kind of pushed those boundaries. So this woman is actually a single mom in this book, which would have been unheard of at the time. But the way that she creates it in the story works for the timeline. And it's just a really unique way to tell the story. So this gal gets forced into an arranged marriage. Seems like it's going to be a disaster. They end up bonding and it seems like everything is going to go awesome. There's fun, witty banter between them. They're an adorable couple. But alas, as always happens in these books, there's drama and something happens. And so they end up separated. So for 5 years, they're apart. She goes in one direction, he goes in the other direction. And then eventually their paths cross again. And so it is really the story of this couple coming back together, getting to know each other again. It's about forgiveness. It's about family. It's about children and their importance and your legacy. And so adored this. Really great romance, really cool way to kind of push the boundaries of this type of historical fiction. So comes out very soon. Heart in the Highlands, Heidi Himball. Completely switching gears. I'm telling you, you're going to be like, how do you read these books? This doesn't make any sense. Okay. I loved this book. I loved this book. It is messed up. It is kind of dark. I loved it. So go figure. This book, I hate that it's backwards. I'm sorry. It's called Razorblade Tears. This is by, what is the other? I'm trying to remember, and I know I'm loud. I'm sorry. The name of his other book that I loved, but now I cannot remember. Blacktop Wasteland. Okay. So this is a crazy book. So I chose this on the recommendation of my friend Missy, Big Sky Books on Instagram. And it is totally outside the boundaries of my normal reading. It is kind of like, I think it was listed as a thriller, but it really read more like crime fiction or mystery, maybe. I don't know, crime mystery. it is raw, it is rough, and I loved every minute of it. So in this story, you have these two ex-cons, and they are dads, and their children were married to each other. They are two homosexual boys, men who get married. Their sons are. And so when these cons were alive, they did not really bond with their sons because they were like, my son's gay and that's weird and I don't want anything to do with it. And they were kind of dicks. There goes back and forth between present tense and the past. And so you learn about how they treated their sons and, if they missed the marriage or if they weren't around for certain events because they felt uncomfortable with it. So one of the dads is Black, one of the dads is white. So they automatically come into this story with different viewpoints and different lives, even though they're both cons. And what happens is their sons are murdered. And when they talk to the police about it, they really feel like there's some kind of either a cover-up going on, or they're just they're not trying really hard to find the killer. They think it might be a hate crime, might not be, they're not sure, but they know there's like more to it. So these two cons who have cleaned up their lives decide to go try to solve this themselves. Now, they're ex-cons, and so they kind of know some dark people, and they kind of have some morally gray tactics. And so it is phenomenal because there's so much character growth in here, because as they go about trying to find the murderers of their sons, they also go through this like transformation of acceptance and learning to love their boys as they are. Sadly, obviously too late, their children have passed away. They also learn to, they're different people. And so they learn to accept each other how they are. They learn to look at the world differently and have empathy for other people. And you guys, it is phenomenal. In fact, let's do a little reading, shall we? So I have some stuff tabbed. I don't know if it's the right one, but I have to read some of these quotes because they're fantastic. So here's one. It says, "It is easier to keep your head in the sand than it is to try and see things from somebody else's point of view. There's a reason they say ignorance is bliss." And then there is this one. "What is normal ain't up to me. That don't beeping matter who he wanted to wake up next to as long as he was waking up." And then there's this one. It says, "I ain't gonna lie and say that I get you because I don't. I can't even pretend I know what it must be like to be you. But if all of this has taught me one thing, it's that it ain't about me and what I get. It's about letting people be who they are, and being who you are shouldn't be a death sentence." Boom. Like his writing just really makes you think and grow and, really get in the head of someone else's life who's so different from you. And so this is what's so funny is I chose this for the book club that I host, Momma Leighellen's book club. And we normally read historical fiction, and I put this one on there, and I'm sure half the people were like, what are you doing? So it was a smaller group than usual. But the women who read this loved it. And we're talking, women that obviously aren't ex-cons and maybe don't have lives like this. But though his writing is done in a way that you just completely are immersed in the story and you cannot help but connect with it. So by the end, you have like total empathy for these guys and some of the crazy stuff they're doing and morally gray stuff where you're like, that's bad, but I get it. So I highly recommend this. It's a really fast read, and it is dark and it is tough at times, but it's also fantastic. So highly recommend this one, Razorblade Tears, if you are a crime thriller person. And actually, I am not, and I read it and loved it. So I have to say, do yourself a favor and try something new. Put yourself out there, give it a shot. Okay, speaking of putting yourself out there, next up, that was a favorite of mine, 7 Days in June. You guys, this book like crushed my soul. It is, I'm just going to say this. I don't usually love open door books. I don't enjoy when books have sex written in them, detailed sex. It always kind of icks me out. I tend to like more books that leave more to the imagination. This one is not like that. They full on get it on. And it's awesome. Not because they're doing it, but because it matches their character. So in this book, you have this story that's told in dual timelines. So it's present day. There are two authors that come back together for a speakers like conference bureau. They're on a panel at some like bookstagram type event, and it's all of these Black authors. And two of these people are up there. And what no one else knows is that these two, years ago when they were kids, like years ago, spent 7 days together that were super intense, and they fell very deeply in love and had this really intense, messed up relationship. So it goes back and forth between present day, how they're going to deal with seeing each other for the first time after years apart, and how they left things, which was a mess, and can they reconcile, can they not? So it was like passionate, and like if you have ever had like one epic love, or like someone even like when you were younger that just like ripped your heart out and you had just an intense time together, that's kind of what this taps into, that like magical time that can happen with someone where you just really get each other and connect. It could just be like the timing in your life, where you are in your life, your age, whatever. There's just usually just someone who all of a sudden just captures you and gets you. And that's what this book is like. This couple, when they are really young, I want to say, I don't even remember. I think it was senior in high school. I think it was high school. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that because it's already been a couple weeks since I read this. When this love affair happens, and they are both just kind of in crappy places in their lives and seek refuge in each other. And that's not always healthy, right? So it's not like the healthiest relationship. They go on to have these amazing artistic careers. They both become authors. And it's funny because they both write about each other. So she writes these like YA trashy vampire novels. And of course, like he's the bad guy in it. And then he writes these beautiful, I love finding other readers. I'm sorry, I have a note. I love these notes. Hi. Yes, I do read a lot of different genres, so it's kind of funny. He's more like renowned for his artistic ability because he writes these stories about this gritty girl who makes horrible choices, but she's, an amazing woman. Well, it's all based on her. So here, all these years later, they're still writing about each other. So it's just a really cool concept. It is a beautifully written book. I have tabbed a million things. I don't know if any of them would be appropriate to read on here, but let me see. Because it's very nostalgic, when you're reading. I'm old, so I can harken back years. But when you know how there's like sometimes you smell a smell or hear a song and it like instantly takes you back to a certain time and you just like almost like feel like you're there. That's how I felt reading this book. It just like broke me open. It was so beautifully done, and I could just picture myself at 20 years old all over again. And it was awesome. Like it was so beautifully done. So yeah, these aren't very exciting to read because they only make sense in the context of the book. Here's a good one. Okay, so no one is perfect, and maybe that is what real adult love was. Being fearless enough to hold each other close, no matter how catastrophic the world became. Loving each other with enough ferocity to quell the fears of the past. Just being there. So that's kind of a little snippet into this book. So again, I know that I'm normally closed door person. This is more open door, but if I can read it and love it, you can read it and love it. Give this one a shot. It is fantastic. Also, I have to say, random side note, as I'm trying to remember things that I loved about this book. I was a single mom for a while with my son, and this woman is a single mom, and their relationship is spectacular. It's so spot on with the unique dynamics that you have as a single mom. Like you are like friends. Like there's less mother child and more like buddies because you're each other's person for so long. And the daughter in this like almost steals the show. She is hilarious and quirky and bold and just says what's on her mind, and I loved it. So this was a book that I thoroughly enjoyed, took me back 20 years, and just made me feel like all the things, right? I was a sobbing mess at the end of this. So give this one a shot. Book Zealot says, yes, I love that, but sometimes I don't. Smelling smells and happy. That is so true. So who is this? Ooh, Insta Love. Yeah. Okay. The Personal Librarian. This is my final favorite for this past month. This is more typical Leighellen stuff that you would see around here, right? Because you know I love historical fiction. Also, any books about books I want to read. And so this is a book about books, and it just was classic historical fiction. So you have this woman who, I guess it's got like some modern twists in it because she has this job where she is the curator for a library, but they all think she's white, but she is a Black woman who is passing. So it adds this extra layer of secrecy. But it was so well done. The history, in fact, it's one of those books where when you're done, you go back and like I was going down the Google wormhole, like looking at who this person really was and like her history and how do we not know about her? Oh, because she's a woman and she was Black, that's why. But hopefully we're changing that and more people are learning more about women in history and diversity in history. So this book kind of breaks that barrier. The cool thing was it was written by two people. Okay, Marie Benedict, I love all of her books. I've read all of them. She's awesome. But then she co-wrote with Victoria Christopher Murray. So the way that worked is one of them is white and one of them is Black. And so they were able to kind of create the two lives of this woman as she lives torn between the two, because she has this uppity, rich white life where she is living as a white woman, passing to be this curator of this library and this, it's almost like a museum really, because the person that owns it wants her to get all these exquisite copies and these rare, first editions. And money is no issue for these people. And then meanwhile, back home, she has siblings and a mom, and they are Black and living in poverty. And so it really was unique to see both. And so it's written by a white woman and a Black woman to really give you that feeling of being torn almost in two, that she was living these two lives and like never fully in one and never fully in the other. And there's some secrets here involved because like her dad, she's not close to and just doesn't know what happened to him, and there's assumptions that are made, and so she learns about him in the end as she goes through it. And even her mom had some stuff that happened to her that she didn't know and understand because her parents chose different paths. So her dad chose to live Black and like be an advocate for his people and like try to create change, and her mom chose to keep this family white to protect them. And who's right there by the end, you're like, you can understand why each parent chose what they did. So very well done. Love this historical fiction. This was a Mom Leighellen's book club pick, and we chatted about it, and everyone gave it either 4 or 5 stars. So go ahead and pick that one up if historical fiction is your jam. So those were my favorites. I do want to add one. What would this be called? An extra. It's a honorable mention. Let's call it an honorable mention, only because it literally made me like pee my pants laughing out loud. I have been a photographer for 20 years now and have shot a lot of weddings. And this book, For the Love of Friends, was hysterical because it's about this gal that is in like, I think she gets in 5 weddings and it's all in the same season. And so she's like trying to manage bridezillas and mothers of the brides and the crazy wedding industry, because if you have ever been a part of a wedding, you know that there's always drama and it's expensive and the industry is nuts. So the person in this book ends up writing a blog about her experience of being in all of these weddings, and it's very funny. I am actually going to interview this author on Instagram today. What is today? Wednesday, August 4th at 6 p.m. So if you want to come see me chat with her, head over to IG. But if you just want something like fun and light and quick for summer, this is my honorable mention because it was really just hilarious. I laughed out loud. There's so much drama that's not like tacky drama, but like literally like, really, what are you thinking buying this hideous dress or in this color? Or, you know, you've got the classic, you know, awful mother of the bride who's like commenting on her daughter's weight, or you've got the, you know, stigma of hooking up with a groomsman when you're in the bridal party. And there is a little romance along the way. She tries to avoid one of these groomsmen, but actually really likes him. So they kind of hang out throughout the book, and it's very sweet, slow burn, but just a fun book. So my friends, that is it. I wanted a quick video today just to get one up here again because I've been a slacker this summer. So those are my 5 favorite books and a little bonus book for you to read. And I hope you enjoy them. I hope you give one of them a try. And if you have any questions, let me know. And as always, happy reading. Keep reading. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me today. Bye, everybody.